Hey, my name is Lizzie Smiley, and I absolutely love helping people connect with their calling and all the tools they need to kick roadblocks and excuses right out the door so they can cultivate the life they dream about. If you want to launch, grow, pivot, or scale your Etsy shop, or you've always wanted to develop the mindset and skills to run your own business, then I'm your girl. I've had that entrepreneurial spirit going strong since my very first lemonade stand, and now I'm a work-at-home mama with multiple online companies and a full-time Etsy shop, all while being present with my kids for the everyday chaos and most important milestones. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things business, mindset, Etsy, creativity, dazzling our customers, and so much more. There's plenty of room at this table for you, so scooch on in and let's go. I'm holding nothing back. Welcome to How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. I'm so glad you're here. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to be with you on this fine Thursday, and I hope things are going well. We are off at quite a pace in this 2025 new year. I'm still not getting my brain around it yet. I feel like I'm just getting back into the swing of things. I was just on my sister's bachelorette trip. A bunch of girls went to Cancun and it was lovely, but I will just say I felt like the holidays extended into early January and I'm just getting my ducks in a row. But I have such a fun thing to share. So a lot of you guys know about the AI workshop that I did in December for PNGs and Tumbler wraps, and I've kind of been keeping you posted. My shop continues to do amazing, but more importantly and more excitingly, my student Jason, who P.S. his wife is Tina, who sells wreaths. She was on the podcast. I think was it even 2 years ago now? She was a brand new Etsy seller and came out of the gates just slaying in wreaths. And her husband is in law enforcement and he's trying to retire. And so he's just we're going to learn from Lizzie and we're going to do an AI, a more digital product type of a shop. So he came to the workshop. He already kind of knew Midjourney, although we covered it down to detail for the beginner. And he was the one, I kind of mentioned this, he was the one where he came to the workshop. He put up new listings the next day, based on the strategy that I showed, especially for how to figure out what to create next. That's a really big piece, the trend spotting, the opportunity spotting. We went over that. And then within 48 hours of the workshop, he was getting sales on his new listings that he created from what we studied. And I've got to tell you, let me pull up his. So as of now, today, we are literally 1 month out from that workshop. 1 month out, he has 62 sales, 112 listings, 72 favorites, which is incredible. And he has a bestseller badge on one of his, that actually was that listing that sold within 48 hours of the workshop. He is flying. He is so excited. He's going to keep going. He's got big goals for next month. He's going to come on the podcast soon. But if you're not sure, you want to start a print on demand shop this year, you kind of want to be in the digital product space or you're not sure what, this is the way to do it. You can go to this one workshop. It's 90 minutes long, but it's got a bunch of bonuses in there as well. Learn everything. I literally taught here's how to figure out what to design for. Here's how to run the Midjourney to create the design. Here's how to create the listing in Etsy and all the secrets there. Here's how to write the SEO so people can find you. I honestly don't know how I covered that much in 90 minutes. And of course, like I said, there's extra videos, especially to show you how to use Midjourney and some of those secrets. But this is what I would recommend. And so you can save $50 on that workshop with the code SAVE50. I've got you there. It'll help keep it more affordable, more accessible. But you will learn so much from that one thing. And come join us in the fun pool. We are all wearing floaties and blowing bubbles and drinking champagne. It's amazing. So if you want to check it out, if that's interesting to you, by all means, shoot me a message if you have any questions. Now, we have got to get into some print-on-demand goodness because so many people print-on-demand is just popping off. People are so excited. If you want to sell a physical product, but you don't want to be the maker of it, this is the way to go. And Heather, who is our guest today, is my girl. So when I started a print-on-demand shop a couple of years ago to test it out, I love testing these new ideas. I took Heather's course. It was spectacular. She is very detailed. She covers bases that you just kind of can't find other places. She's very organized. I really resonated with her. You know how I always tell you guys, regardless of what you're going to do in business, find your person. It's one thing, yeah, you can go listen to all of the things, but then you've got to have a mental filter of well, okay, which one's right for me? Is that really true? Does that really work? Whatever. Most of the Etsy YouTubers are top-notch, totally trustworthy. My very favorites that I have personally vetted are the ones that I mentioned on the podcast, but there's lots of others that are great. I'm friends with most of them. Heather's my girl. So she is going to talk to us today about if you're starting in 2025, what she would recommend. She's giving all kinds of depth and tips and all of the goodness. So I'm like really, really loved this conversation. Heather herself is a top 1% Etsy and print on demand seller. She's been a multiple six-figure Etsy store owner. She went from 0 sales to $250,000 in revenue in 2021 when she started her shop. She's been featured on Printify Success Stories, on Flip, and the Side Hustle podcast, not to mention right here on the How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy podcast. She's been on like 4 or 5 times now. She's Etsy and print on demand YouTube and TikTok coach that has taught multiple students how to earn 5 figures and beyond with Etsy and print on demand. She's amazing. We're going to have so much fun. Please help me welcome Heather to the podcast. Yay, Heather, my bestie, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
I'm so excited. These are always such fun conversations. And like, let's just say the topic on everyone's mind, it seems like these days, is print on demand. So I'm really glad you're here. We have so much we want to learn about you, but I kind of want to come at you with like the kind of the question that's been bubbling up in my mind. I want to know, because like historically, print on demand on YouTube, it's like the topic. I feel like those are the videos that go viral. You guys are like the most YouTube famous in the Etsy space. I think it attracts more sellers, like potential sellers interested than any other type of product sold on Etsy. Like for sure. That's been my observation, like looking over all of them. Why do you think that is? What is it that makes print on demand the hottest Etsy type of shop to have?
I think that print on demand opens up the opportunity to give power to people who may not have been able to create their own business in the past. I think that we're seeing such a new wave of entrepreneurship that we are almost breaking away from the normal of working a 9 to 5 and being able to start a business with almost very, very little investment. And I think that a lot of people have that entrepreneur heart and it's just hard to get into it. And I think when people learn about print on demand, it's like, oh, I only need to spend maybe like $20 to $50 to invest into this business model. That sounds great to me. I thought I had to own a brick and mortar business, right? A lot of us think that. Or maybe that we have to invest thousands of dollars for inventory. But I think print on demand, this is the new era to me, as far as this is the time and the place for people to finally have the ability to have their own businesses and be entrepreneurs for once. And I don't think we've seen that in the past. I think that a lot of corporations kept a lot of things hidden, and it's almost has forced past generations to work the 9 to 5, right? Be, a worker, get into labor. And while those are all wonderful occupations, and I really think all the people that show up and help and serve in those industries, I think a lot of people are opening their eyes and ears up to this wonderful world of online business now, and we can compete in ways with a lot of the big corporations and businesses. So, all in all, I think a lot of people are excited, and I think the newer generations that are able to create and sell right off the jump, they don't have to wait for inventory to come in, right? So, I think that's what I'm seeing, and I'm so excited to just be in this space and talk about it all the time because it's something that just fires me up. And yeah, that's my guess on why.
I love it. And I think that when we think about Etsy, we think about a physical product. Obviously now, and I'm in the digital product space more than anything, I'm obsessed. But when we think about the majority of people going to Etsy, they want something physical. And so it just takes away this I want to sell something physical, but I've got to do all these pieces that take away my profit. And instead I can just focus on the design. And that is so powerful. If someone clicked play, Heather, and they are like just kind of chewing on Etsy for the first time, this caught their attention, but they don't really understand print on demand. Could you please explain what it is and also like how it can go beyond t-shirts and sweatshirts?
Yeah. So print on demand is a business model where you integrate your print on demand company's application and software to your Etsy shop or different platforms. So a lot of print on demand companies have brought in their horizons as far as platforms that you can connect to now. It sounds way more complicated than it actually is. It's actually very simple to integrate. It's very easy step by step. That's why I have my print on demand crash course. That's a completely free course on how to set up A through Z walkthrough guide too, for that reason, because it seems daunting to just start, because it's like you have so many questions of I don't know what I don't know. But it's really a simple process where you integrate their software to your Etsy shop. After integrating, you create listings. And when those listings are purchased from a random stranger on the internet, or maybe just someone that you know, maybe it's your mom, your dad, or friend, family member, if you're lucky, then that order will go and be streamlined and integrated to your print on demand company's website and software, and they will print, pack, and ship that item. Now, I will say you do get charged before they print, pack, and ship that item. I think that is a misunderstanding some people have with this business model is you don't have to pay right away, but you do have to pay to get on Etsy and then charge for that initial order that you get and any order following that from customers. So once that is charged and then they print, pack, and ship, they will attach the tracking information to the order. And the next step of the process is just the customer receiving the product and you following up as far as maybe any customer service. So if the customer is like, "Hey, this doesn't fit. What can I do?" So you handle that customer service process. I like to say that print on demand is a semi-passive business model. I wouldn't say it's fully passive due to we create our products. We are the artists behind the screen at the end of the day. And I know a lot of people, even from handmade sellers I've worked with, a lot of people feel kind of like, "Oh, this doesn't feel like my art since I'm sending it to a print provider," but you're still the artist behind the screen. It's just this is giving you the ability to spread your art in a new way that a lot of people weren't able to before. It's giving that opportunity to the average person who doesn't have that investment up front, right? So it's just a beautiful business model. Again, something I could just talk about all day, every day, because I love it so much.
I love that you mentioned about how it works like financially. So like the customer pays Etsy and the order goes through to Printify. Printify charges you. So there's a markup, right? Etsy is going to charge whatever you want them to charge the customer, and that's going to include your profit. And then you're going to pay Printify for the service and the raw materials. And so what typically happens though is you're paying Printify before you get the money from Etsy. And that was a bit of a roadblock for me in the beginning
Yep.
because at that point in time, I was afraid of like, well, what if I get like 100 orders? What if something goes crazy? And so at that time, our friend Jenny from the shop, she's like, oh, I got this specific credit card for this. And I pay it off every month or every time I get an Etsy deposit so that I'm not sitting on it or carrying credit. I can link that for you guys. It's just a simple Chase card and it took all the fear out of it. I wasn't worried about it dipping into my monthly bills or whatever. So do you like that approach too, Heather, if people are a little tight? I mean, I'm not usually big on credit, but I think in that situation, if it's something that would stop you from starting, it's like a really good approach.
Yes, I completely agree. That's what I did when I began is I opened up a business checking, I opened up a business credit card, and that is what I mean, at first I did make the mistake and I was charging certain things on my personal credit card and my
Okay.
personal expenses because I was new. I honestly didn't think it would work. I didn't think that I would have many sales with print on demand and Etsy. And it kind of blew up from there.
Hate it when
So,
that happens.
yeah, I know. A good
Feel
problem to complain
so
about.
sorry for you.
Yeah, I know. Feel sorry for me, please. I need it. I'm
Oh
kidding.
my
I'm kidding.
goodness.
But yeah, it's a good problem to have, right? But I think that when you are someone like myself, I had very low investment. I I was just paying off my student loans when I started with print on demand and Etsy. And that's what's so incredible about this business model is it gives us that opportunity to scale our own businesses and finances. And from there, I switched to a business credit card. I got the Chase card. I think it was like Chase Inc.
Yes, that's
And
what I have. Yeah.
yeah. And the plus of that, and it's so funny because we're not, I don't even think like we honestly, I don't know if you're if you are or not, but I know I'm like not affiliated or sponsored by them. But it's just one of those things that I'm like, this is a great opportunity to get some reward points because when I
Yes.
opened it, yeah, it's kind of one of those like credit card hacking things because with print on demand, since you can pay off the amount right away, it kind of doesn't really hurt you the way that a credit card typically would, where you kind of rack up in interest. For me and my print on demand business, I only charged what I could pay off. And I had,
Yeah.
at first, it was like a few transactions, and then my business scaled so quickly that I was hitting like hundreds of transactions in a month, and I had to keep calling into my credit card company to increase limit, which is a good problem, right? It's a great problem to have, but there was a moment where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to get any orders out. But the plus side of that is within my first year of opening my credit card, getting the reward credit that they offer in the beginning, I think I made like a few $1,000s in just credit card reward points,
Yes.
in addition to just making profit in my print on demand and Etsy business. So there's a lot of other possibilities that open up with having print on demand and even that credit card. And I'm really happy you mentioned that.
Yeah, and like so for transparency, when I did my print on demand shop, and by the way, I mentioned this in the intro, but I'll say it again now. I took your course, Heather. I had just met you. I resonated the most with you. We were both like micro niche girlies. You're like just you've always just been my vibe, and your course was spectacular. I immediately like I got to 100 sales so fast. I had a bestseller badge like in the first month. It was bananas. It was so great. Ended up that I just have preferred digital products, but like you were my print on demand expert. But at that time, I actually opened a Chase personal credit card, and I only recently ordered the Chase Ink. So like for people who maybe don't have an LLC yet or anything like that, what I'm going to link, I'm not an affiliate for them. I just have the refer your friend link. And so it gives us both points. But I think I have bought with just the points, and Jenny would always use them for airline miles, right? Because she lives in Greece and she travels a lot. I do not. I have a 2-year-old. I don't even want to go to the grocery store. But I got like, I think 2 iPads. I got an Apple Watch, like with just the rewards of running my print on demand business. So I was like, ooh, this is
Wow.
great. So, okay. But I like already have beat that horse totally. I'm not going to say it because it'll offend some people, but we can move on from that. Okay. Typically people think print on demand. They think, t-shirts, sweatshirts, fashion is hot, whatever. But Printify now has like this incredible catalog. Are you seeing students have success go beyond t-shirts and sweatshirts?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of students have success with other avenues and other product types. So not just t-shirts, sweatshirts. And I think that's something that when I came into the print on demand space and on YouTube, I know one of the biggest problems for a lot of sellers is, oh, t-shirts and sweatshirts seem so saturated.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah, and they still aren't. You can still
No.
sell t-shirts and sweatshirts and get into the game as far as that goes. But what I found is some sellers come to me and they're like, I just don't want to go into t-shirts and sweatshirts. Can you point me to something else? And I have done that in the past and they have seen incredible results. I mean, I've had sellers that I've worked with who've hit multi six figures with just t-shirts, sweatshirts, apparel. And then I've
Mhm.
had sellers who've hit their first six figures in maybe candles or mugs. So there's so many products you can go into and you can have success with those products. At least you're focusing on the right niches. You're creating products and designs that people want to buy and maybe not what you think they might want to buy. I think that's
Right.
something a lot of sellers I work with, and I have to have kind of a talk to on, hey, I like your designs, but I don't know if they're applicable to this audience type, right? So
Yes.
it's kind of hard to have that moment with yourself too and be real and honest with your own shop and say, oh, I can't really foresee maybe my mom who's in this niche buying this. Or, if you think of a friend or coworker, it's good to just put your place in those shoes. But yeah, that's me going on 10 tangents. So
No, I'm not at all. But you know what? Okay, I'm in that. There's this Facebook group for Printify, the print on demand Printify rock stars, something like that.
Mhm.
Aren't you in there too? I feel like we're both in there.
Yes,
I
yes.
like it because they talk about like people order samples of all their different products and then like share reviews about it. It's actually been a really one of the more helpful Facebook groups. Have
Yep.
you seen those like I'm just curious if you have any experience with the tapestries. because
Mhm.
they're like these fabric tapestries that you hang on the wall. And I feel like I've seen really good reviews for those. Do you have any experience? I'm super curious. I'm going off script completely, Heather. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, you're fine. I'm here for it. So
Mhm.
for the tapestries, for the bachelorette party niche, those are really doing well.
What?
Graduation niche, because if you think about it, when a lot of bachelorette parties when they're going on trips, and I know you just
I
had
just
this
got back from
too.
one like yesterday.
Yeah, so decorating the Airbnb or for like an event, people are using the tapestries. So it's not even the
Wow.
SEO people are using isn't sometimes even tapestries. It's just like wall sign, or fabric wall sign you put in a Airbnb. You're going to decorate an Airbnb for a bachelorette party or graduation party, right? Maybe a birthday party. So those are what I'm seeing as a trend is that use. And then also just for maybe the more spiritual niches, I like to say. So
Oh
kind of,
yeah.
I'm
Celestial.
yes, yes. So those are the other avenues to go. But again, it's kind of knowing your product type, knowing the niches and the audiences who are going to buy from those areas is what I found is, and also looking on the market. Like I do research on the market, just like you, Lizzie. We're researching just about every day, every week, and we've been in and on Etsy for the past few years. So it's kind of like when you have that much research and data, you kind of know the markets and the product
Yeah.
types and that's where I'm very grateful when I have like also students who tell me, "Hey, I don't want to do sweatshirts and t-shirts. Give me something else," and I'm like, "Well, have you considered tapestries?" And they'll look at me and be like, "Tapestries?" Like,
Isn't that a boomer product? Like, I
yeah.
love all the boomers. I'm just saying that's totally what your people would say.
Yeah, yeah, they're like they give me, like, the wildest look, and I'm like, "Please trust the process,"
Yeah.
and then they strike gold in a way, I like to say, and they kind of mine for that gold, find a good niche, and, that's what I love. I love going into all of the areas we can do with print on demand that historically a lot of big corporations and businesses have went into that we now as individual entrepreneurs can also go into and have successful businesses. And I really just, again, going back to the beginning, I love this era of entrepreneurship because that's what print on demand is allowing to a lot of us individuals now. So,
I'm sparking so many ideas, and I debated whether or not to even say anything. So I'll talk Gilmore Girls fast on this, you guys. But I'm thinking, okay, so like grand millennial, which P.S. is me. That's literally when you are a boomer in a millennial's body, and we love anything kind of granny core. So tapestries would totally fit into anything that niche. I love what you said about spiritual. I totally thought of like tarot card type design, which is trending on a tapestry. I think you could also go Christian for sure, like scriptures and things like that. There's actually a lot of underserved really popular scriptures. So long as you find a translation that's in the public domain.
mhm.
I just felt like, holy cow, I could go open a new shop right now. I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. But the ideas were and the other thing I will say, I love what you said about people aren't searching tapestries. I always thought that printable wall art was really saturated on Etsy. And ever since I started doing my weekly trend report, I realized, nope, not at all. And in fact, one of the biggest things are like really big posters.
Mhm.
There's a lot of demand and very little competition for like these huge posters. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you could totally do that as a tapestry. That would slay. Okay, I'm done, but
Mhm.
that was fun. And I got it out of my body and now I can think about other things. Okay, Heather, we were chatting recently and you had me, my jaw was on the floor hearing about a couple of your students in your coaching group right now. And you know what? Who doesn't love a before and after? I'm just so here for it. Can you tell us, like, I need the tea on what is happening with these people?
Yeah, so I have been in the Etsy and print on demand space for probably the past few years as far as like being on YouTube and my courses and content and just working with clients. And a few of my beta testers from my initial course, like the first coaching group I've ever taken on, it's really interesting because all of those sellers that I worked with in the initial phases of their businesses, some had zero sales, some had maybe they were close to four figures in that mark. Some of those students, I mean, I want to say it's been two of those students from that first beta group, which I only took like a small handful because I it's one of those things you're testing, you're trying to make sure that your teaching works. And those students, I gave them kind of lists of niches to go into and almost roadmaps in a way. I didn't name it that when I began with them, but those clients that I started with in that program ended up eventually hitting just last year multiple six figures in their own business. They're at over 500K in total revenue in the past few years. Another client, they hit 180K in their business in total since starting with them. I had another client just last year that I started with in the beginning of the year who doubled their revenue. They just broke like 20K and they ended up hitting 50K at the end of the year, which I mean, I know with all these numbers, it's like, okay, what's profit? But a lot of the times it is around 20 to 30% profit margin when you're looking at print on demand and Etsy. So even the seller, like last year, they're breaking six figures in profit. So from having multiple six figures within their last year. So I know a lot of sellers say, hey, is it possible this year? And the answer is yes. And I have proof from my last clients who did it last year. Every year there's always a new seller I work with who hits these incredible milestones. And it is inspiring and it gets me excited because this is what I love doing. I love working with people and seeing them get to that level of even quitting their 9 to 5s, or even with some sellers I work with, it's like, how do I quit my 9 to 5? Like I'm at that stage, but I don't know what to do. And that's kind of the next level is, okay, let's figure out how to stabilize this, make it consistent, and maybe hire a virtual assistant, get you acclimated to making this full time, right? So, and that's really cool because when I started on YouTube, my goal was to help just one person. Now it's been multiple people and it's so cool. Like this is what I wanted and I've achieved that and I'm striving to do that again with I brought in a very intensive, I started a new kind of intensive program called Bestseller Accelerator this year with one-on-one clients, which is the first time I've taken one-on-one clients to this extent since 2020 2021, was it? I think 2021 or 2022 when I started Print on Demand Academy. It might have been 2022. No, I think it was 2021 because it was the first year I started on YouTube. I took one-on-one clients. And from that, basically this year, I was like, you know what? This had such incredible and just phenomenal results in the time. And I haven't taken on one clients because I've been focusing in other avenues. And so this year I decided to do that again. And I'm just excited because these are people that inspire me. They fire me up. And I'm just so excited to hopefully get those success stories later on in the year in the next few years with these clients. But there is some magic. And I found that I've really loved this in this element. And so anyways, this is long story to say that I'm just very proud of the people who I've been able to work with, and they've put in a lot of work in their shops. And it's at this point where I know it's like a repeatable process, which that's what I teach in the Print on Demand Academy. And then if people need that extra support, that's where I'm kind of opening up that one-on-one help. But it's only like once or twice a year when I do that, unfortunately, just due to bandwidth. But I love what I do in this space and what I've been able to see with my clients and students. So
if you are a print on demand seller, then odds are pretty high that you care about saving time. Like, while it's nothing compared to selling a handmade product, believe me, I know I've done it all the steps of creating a design, mocking it up, importing it into Printify, setting up the listing, moving it to Etsy, and so on, like it can still feel cumbersome and tedious. And I do get emails from you guys being like, this process is a lot. So that is why I'm so thrilled to share that my friend and well-known print-on-demand YouTuber, Cassiy Johnson, has recently launched a bulk mockup tool that is going to change the game for you and save you so much time. Simply Listed will take your favorite mockups and load your design accurately onto each image with just one click. It connects to your Printify account and it loads all of your mockups effortlessly into your listing for you. It's going to save buckets of time on this like low skill task so that you can get back to the listing steps that really need your expertise the most, like identifying opportunities, creating designs, and writing stellar SEO. Simply Listed also allows you to create multi-item listings more easily than ever before by automating the process of copying and pasting all of those various product SKUs, those long SKU numbers that connect your Printify products to your Etsy listings. So if you've ever sold two products, like both a t-shirt and a sweatshirt version of a design in one listing on Etsy, you know what a big deal this is. It saves you so much time and error. So check out Simply Listed with my link today, and you will get a 14-day free trial to create mockups for up to 50 listings. And you can use the SKU linking feature for unlimited SKUs. So start saving time and making more sales. And Cassiy, we endlessly appreciate you for this. You are simply amazing. You're so full of heart, Heather. Like, obviously, like knowing you very personally, it's so precious to hear you talk like this here. So just to get, because you and I tend to go deep together. When I was a kid, my mom was one of, so I would say in like the 60s, she was 60s into the 70s. She was one of 4 women at Wharton School of Business. It was all men, and she was very much like ahead of her time. She was a very feminist, very pro woman. And among her peers, she's this very high powered saleswoman. And I'm home with like the nanny. And I was always so proud of her. Even though I missed her, I was always so proud of her and the way that she was paving the way. And I remember her telling me stories about having to like hide her pregnancies because like women in sales and in business, it was like frowned upon, and the company got annoyed. And that was before there were like things to protect women. We're getting better as a culture. But I also remember thinking when I was in college, like, and getting so excited about the prospect of the internet and e-commerce because I wanted both. So my mom opened up this world of just high success. Like, just she was extremely successful, and I wanted to have that and be with my kids. And like, I think that's why Etsy has been so profound, and why the work that you're doing just with legacy. You know, we were talking about we were talking about Hamilton.
Yeah,
You went and
and
saw Hamilton. What was the quote that really got you?
yeah, so the quote that I really loved in Hamilton was legacy means that you're going to plant seeds that you'll never see, or I might have butchered that a little bit,
No,
but
chills.
yeah, it gave me chills when I saw that over the weekend. And I am a late viewer of Hamilton. I will say I just saw it this last weekend, and I just felt like you said, profound is the best word for it. Like, it's like planting seeds that we'll never see. There's so many people we might touch in our media that we're in content we're putting out in the world, right?
We'll
With
never know
podcasts
them. We'll
and
never
yeah.
know thousands of these people.
Yep, and yeah, anyone who's listening now, like, I hope that those of you have that, because it's magical, and that's what I want to do in my life, is have that planting seeds I'll never see, and I'm completely okay with that. I think that in the world of also being in just a online presence, I want to at least spread my knowledge the best I can.
Yes,
And
especially to other women.
oh yeah. Yeah, and I love just what you said too, is having that inspiration, and you really don't know how many lives you're affecting and hopefully helping through sharing your story and your messages. And I think that's something that I love about the space. I love
Yeah.
about meeting sellers and people like you, Lizzie, who just recharge my entrepreneurship. And I hope that I do the same for other people. And it's one of those magical things. So
Okay, so I think this is like kind of the perfect little segue, like for some real talk, because and the majority of people like in the Etsy coaching space, you and I know almost all of them
mhm.
and love almost all of them. We have some of the most incredible colleagues on the internet, like in terms of really providing value, very few bad actors. And so I love my colleagues. I hear a lot of feedback from like listeners and things like that. A little skepticism about some of the success stories like your students. So can we talk practical? You recently had this YouTube video pop off on like kind of what you would do starting a new Etsy shop in 2025. And I think we should dig into that. I'm also going to link that. I need to make a note. I'm going to link that YouTube video because
Mm.
people need to actually see this visually as well. But let's talk through, like, let's say someone does want to break 6 figures. They're starting in January. That is their goal. They want to be one of those best sellers. Also, highly recommend they get in touch with you. At least take your free course, if not join one of your coaching programs. But Can you talk through what would you do? What would you recommend to them? I mean, and let's go big. Like, yeah, we could talk to the person who wants to make an extra couple hundred a month, but they can also take the bigger goals and then extrapolate it down to what's doable for them. So let's say we want to clear six figures. What would you do starting that print on demand shop now?
Yeah. So as far as just what I kind of outlined in that video, and I'll try to do more of a quicker version,
Yes.
where any seller should start, and just even if you are in the consideration kind of, okay, is this right for me? Will I actually make this happen stage?
Yes.
I think that it's good to, first of all, do your research, see stories, real stories of that this works. And then next, after you've decided and you're excited about it, my first piece of advice is to just start. I know you've probably heard that 20 times for anyone who's watched any
Yeah. So
motivational.
why? Like people probably go, oh, but why is
Yeah.
that so important?
Yeah. So for just starting, I think that a lot of people procrastinate the inevitable. So it's kind of just asking all the questions of, oh, what about how do I set up finances? How do I set up my bank account? And I think a lot of people know the answers. They just don't think to apply it right away because you might already know, okay, maybe you need to go to your county clerk office and figure out, okay, should I get a doing business as document, file that for my county, start that, and then the next step you could probably go into your finances. Okay, what do you need to do for your finances? The obvious answer is probably to open up a business checking at the very minimum, right? And then you can maybe open up a business credit card later. So that those are things we all know, but we procrastinate in doing, and that's okay. I don't want anyone listening to feel attacked. I was there as well. So that's why I also have that free crash course, because I think it's so essential to learn what you don't know and have someone just walk you through the process and kind of explain everything in fine details and it's no investment, right? Like it's
Right.
completely free course. It's just, hey, take this course, see if this is right for you first. And if you get through the course, you're like, hey, this isn't right for me, then but at least you take that effort and you start the process of opening up that shop. Because I think a lot of people a lot of sellers, one of the biggest regrets I hear from so many sellers is, I wish I didn't procrastinate this to the extent that I did,
Yeah.
because now I have a full-fledged shop and I would have had this sooner if I hadn't just procrastinated. So I think that's first step and first part of all this. The second is starting and putting things into motion. I think a lot of people, so even if you set everything up, what I've noticed is the second hurdle a lot of sellers have is, okay, it's time to put this in motion and start listing. How do I list? How do I create a listing? How do I create a product? Again, tutorials on YouTube, my free course. I have it all A to Z in my free course too. And and I really recommend people going through at least a tutorial on YouTube, even if it's not me. I'm okay with that. It doesn't hurt my feelings, but at least you start, right? So, as far as putting this in action, so maybe tomorrow you put on the calendar, tomorrow I'm going to list one listing. And by doing that act, I think a lot of people, again, you know what you should be doing, but you're not acting on it. That's my biggest thing that I hear from sellers. I know what I should be doing. I knew you were going to tell me that. But it's not until you put it on a calendar or even today. So, can you do something today in your business? Can you do something tomorrow? And I'm not saying schedule something a month from now. I mean, if you're on vacation, then totally understandable. Schedule it after the vacation, but try to do it as soon as possible. I really like the book Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yes.
Yeah. And he
I'll link
says,
it.
yep. You need to establish habits in your daily life to make changes. I mean, that's kind of a summarized version of what I had a takeaway of his book, is establishing some habits that are going to lead you to success and change in your life. So that's what's really important in what I consider the planning phase of your business, is start those habits right away, or make it maybe easier for you to do those habits. So that might look like going to work a little bit earlier and working on your Etsy shop before work. I know that sounds maybe difficult, but if you have maybe a laptop you can take to work or your phone, you can create listings on your phone, on an iPad. That's the beauty of print on demand. So that's kind of the first phase. Lizzie, I don't know how I'm doing so far as this is
Amazing,
a
amazing.
long,
Like, I
long
think
stretch.
something that's really helpful to hear, and I wanna hear your approach to this because it might even be different than mine, and I always love when that happens because it just means there's more ways. There's like you kind of can't go wrong, like, follow a path.
Yep.
But if they're wanting to, like, so those are such great practical steps that I feel like sometimes we skip over, and a lot of people do feel super I'm someone who would be totally intimidated by all that in the beginning. In fact, I don't recommend this now that I've talked to attorney Paige Holst and had her on the podcast, but I started with just my social security number as a sole proprietorship and my personal bank account. And I
Mhm.
tested it and see if saw if I liked Etsy, and then after the fact added the more formal stuff. And that's not illegal to do. You're at a little more risk because you're not separating your assets. This is not legal advice, by the way, just like my personal experience. You're not
Mhm.
separating your assets with an LLC from your business from your personal. But to test it for a month or two, that was what I did because it was a lower barrier to entry. So I love that you're covering these basic things so that people can kind of jot them down. What I think would be so interesting is what does it look like? So we're adding listings. I also want to say, do you remember when you were 15 and you were learning how to drive a car and it was so cumbersome? Like you put your foot on this and then you pull this thing throttle back or not throttle, whatever the gear shift is, and then you have to put it's very cumbersome, but then you'd practice, you did it over and over again, and a few weeks later, if you drove every day, it was becoming much more fluid and natural. And that's the Etsy listing process, right? In the beginning, it feels like there's all these steps and you're forgetting where things are. And it's like, it takes me so long. Well, yeah, but if you do it every day for 2 weeks, it'll be like the driving where it becomes more fluid.
Yep.
What actions and activities need to happen for someone to hit that six-figure mark? What kinds of like at what rate do they need to be listing? Like what are some of the key things you've noticed, the differentiators between those who maybe make an extra $100 this year versus like clear the six figures?
Yeah. So the habits of the sellers who have hit six figures and multi six figures differ from the people who might have just I mean, still, they see progress, they have additional income stream, and I just wanna say, at this stage too, don't compare your shop to others. I think that's the easiest way to quit out early for those of you listening because it is tough when you're starting because you almost have that imposter syndrome of, like, "Who do I think I am?" And
Yes.
I've had that too, and I hit multi six figures in a year, so we all have it. Even successful sellers will have that moment. Just try to keep going forward. Stop comparing your shops to others. That's a time waster. It's a habit you shouldn't be doing. So take out that habit list maybe during that time. The habits of successful sellers and those multi six figure sellers I've seen, and even in my own business, has been listing almost daily, whether that be one
Yeah.
listing or a few listings. A lot of sellers have listed daily. Now, I will not I will not say that the amount of quantity over quality will ever be in my suggestion to anyone. I don't believe in quantity over quality when it comes to Etsy listings. However, I think that quantity builds experience, it builds skill sets. It also allows you to test different markets and see where your design might sell. I've had a lot of sellers I've worked with where they're trying to sell to one niche and they find that they're not getting any sales with the design and product type. They go to an entirely different niche and they start to see sales. So, how can that seller even know that if they don't create another listing?
Yes.
They won't know. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I completely agree quality over quantity any day. But I don't think you're not going to hit that quality level until you really practice and start listing and trying. I think the try is the most important thing and most important piece of advice I have for those of you is to just try different markets, try different niches, try different designs, try different products when you begin. And I know that can be overwhelming, but it can also lead you to really great success in your business. And that's what I've noticed in the sellers who have hit those multi six figures is they're willing to try. They don't care about failure. They're not looking at the listings that aren't selling. They're looking at the listings that are selling.
Mhm.
So just keep that in mind.
Okay. So you guys know how I love to test a new Etsy shop concept, so I can give you all the intel, like on what's working on Etsy, what's hot, where there's demand, and how you can increase your Etsy income this year. So last October, I started a brand new Etsy shop selling PNG files and Tumbler wraps. And this was after hearing my guest Eden's story of launching this kind of shop brand new in January of 2024. And she made $91,000 in passive income in just 10 months. That was episode 159 if you want to go check it out. It's literally insane. So in the first 53 days of my new PNG and Tumbler wrap Etsy shop, I already had 93 sales, 39 designs, 17 different designs selling, which is the big win. It wasn't just like one bestseller going nuts. It was 17 different ones, one bestseller badge on a listing, and 7 listings that were in multiple shoppers' carts. So like not too shabby at all for a totally new, unestablished shop. The more research I do in this particular niche, the more possibilities I see. Like this is nowhere near saturated. Before I went in there, I thought it was. It's nowhere near. The opportunities are endless. And my opinion is if you want to start a digital product shop, meaning like mostly passive income for this year, or let's say you want to start a shop but you're not sure what to sell, you're kind of on the fence, absolutely 1000%, I would tell you to do AI PNGs and Tumbler wraps. It's just winning left and right. So in December, I hosted a workshop where I taught exactly how to do this. Like I just broke open my chest and showed you all my secrets. We covered how to decide what designs to create that are still high demand but low competition. I taught how to use Midjourney to create the art for your designs. It's an AI image tool that I show you exactly how to use, all the little secrets, how to set up your Etsy listing. So no secret, no like, stumbling blocks there. You'll know exactly how to do it, how to write the SEO, which is a really big deal so that people find you. It was the most value-packed workshop I have ever done. And in fact, one of my students in the workshop took the strategies that we covered, created new listings the very next day, and had sales within 48 hours. It was a brand new shop. And then 1 month after the class, he already had 62 sales, 112 listings, 72 favorites, and a bestseller badge. So he's doing backflips and I'm like super excited for him. So this stuff works, and I promise I covered it in a super beginner friendly way. That's the beauty of it. So to get the workshop replay and all of the bonuses, because there's a lot in there, visit the AI PNG and Tumbler wrap workshop link that I will have in the show notes for you, and you can use the code SAVE50, so SAVE, all caps, the number 50 to save $50 on your purchase. Save 50. I literally cannot wait for you to join us on this adventure. I am having way too much fun. You guys are I remember years ago, someone called me grandpa for telling the same story over and over again, but I am going to say this one thing. When I was in art school for college, it was like we were doing a new project every single day. And it wasn't that we didn't need to put more time or hours into the original project. It was that our skills got better with repetition. And so I agree with you. Whereas I don't think you should just throw up a bunch of random junk. I think more time should be spent in the research part. Finding those micro niches, finding those opportunities is where I like to spend the time. And then not some time on the design, but not insane time on the design. But I have found, as someone I am not intuitively a good artist, LOL, art school. It was for interior design though, so that's a bit different. And LOL is still terrible at that. I switched to history pretty quick. But the point is, the point is, I have become so much better over time. It is a skill that can be built, even if you don't necessarily have the eye. Even if you sit down, to this day, if I sit down and you tell me to draw a person, you're getting a stick person. You are getting a hangman circle with a line and 2 lines for the arms. Like I'm not. But because I have now created hundreds of listings between print on demand and digital, and then like social media graphics, when I sit down to design, it's much more intuitive. It's much faster. It's much more attractive. It sells more. So just the volume is to get the practice in, to get the repetition, just like an athlete would do. Off my
Yep.
soapbox. I'm done. What if someone spent last year, this is like their kind of maybe year 2, last year didn't go the way they'd hoped. How can they kind of analyze what they're like? Give us some tips on analyzing what we've done so far and figuring out where we need to make the changes. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. And I think that when we're looking at our shop in the past year, I think that again, it kind of goes back to what thing I said earlier or kind of reference to is we all know what we should be doing and we resist that sometimes. And I think that some sellers if you're not seeing sales, what are you not doing that maybe other shops are? Are you maybe not going into a certain product type that's trending right now? So one example is I think Bella and Canvas 3001. I think there's still a trend for it. It still sells really, really well in group listings, but I'm seeing as far as individual listings, the Comfort Colors
A
1717.
million%.
Yes, customers love it. So if you're still selling a Bell and Canvas 3001 in a niche that is maybe catered towards trends and maybe those trendy looking t-shirts, then selling a
Like
Bell
the
and
social
Canvas.
club, like social club.
Yeah.
Don't put that on a Bella and Canvas.
Yep, yeah, and customers know what they want as far as those trends, and they're looking for comfort colors. A lot of people know about comfort colors. A lot of customers, they know the brand that they want their designs on, or if they're the design that they're gonna purchase on. So I think that's really important is look at what other sellers are doing. Now, in the case that you are that seller that's doing all those things, then maybe it's good to step back and kind of look at your shop as a whole at times. I think there are some common mistakes I see in Etsy shops as far as the main thumbnail image can be maybe zoomed out. Can you tell what you're selling without reading the title from that main mock-up photo? That's something I've noticed with some sellers I've looked at. I've done last year. I took it upon myself to do way more shop reviews than I've ever done because I think that helps me to teach better too. The more audits I do and things, and that's one common thing I saw is the main mock-up thumbnail image. That is what is going to ultimately sell your listing.
Yes.
Yes, SEO does. It's important. It's going to get the relevant customers to your listings, but what I really noticed is that main thumbnail image and the difference between even one color that you're using on that main thumbnail image. If you're using white versus black as example as your main t-shirt mock-up image, and maybe you're offering the black in the second image, it doesn't matter to the customer because they're going to click into your listing because of that first image, not the second,
Yes.
not the third, not the fourth. So I think that's a big thing I've noticed. And so I think I went off in a tangent from your
No.
initial question, but that's
No, it was like how
um
to analyze what you're doing wrong. I think that's so wise.
yeah.
People don't give enough credit to the mock-ups. Like, and I'm
Mhm.
someone who sometimes uses and has created lots of AI mock-ups, but you really need to have a high quality, like you need to really pay attention and look at your listing in a sea of the competing listings and like how does it look? Even guys, even for physical products with my signs, the exact same sign would sell on one background and wouldn't sell on the other. So the product was good, the design was good, but the mock-up, the way that the image was framed and presented in that thumbnail image would make or break it. So maybe it's time to upgrade your mock-ups.
Yep.
Maybe your designs, maybe your fonts could be improved.
Mhm.
Could you go, build your mental archive and look at a bunch of best-selling listings in your niche? What kinds of fonts are they using? Not saying to copy directly. I'm just saying, are you tuned into what your perfect customer would be really attracted to? Like if you are doing a 90s vibe design with like the checkers and let's see, like a disco ball kind of effect or anything like that, and then you're using some kind of really tiny like script font, it's not the vibe. You need like a groovy font. You need a, is that the right word? What's the word for that
Yeah,
kind of font?
yeah, I would say, like
Retro font. You need a
yeah,
retro font. Like probably even doing like a bold like serif font would not work. Like would work great for a social club type of a design, but not if you're doing, so you have to like pay attention to these things. So yeah,
mhm.
I think you like nailed it. I think we it's perfect. Oh my gosh, Heather, I could talk to you another 3 hours. We'll just have to have you back. And for those listening, Heather's been on several episodes. I will link all of them. You can hear her story of like coming out of the medical field to full-time print on demand. Like so her story's amazing. Everything she's ever shared has been so valuable. Heather, where are the best places for us to like find you and connect and learn from you?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube at Heather Studio. I think my at is It's Heather Studio, so It's Heather Studio or Heather Studio. I'm also on Instagram at It's Heather Studio as well.
Okay. And then like 12 out of 10 recommend your free crash course. It's like, why not? It's free. Everyone should take it if they're in print on demand and they want to grow. It's super valuable. Do you want me to send people there?
Yeah, yep. It's
Okay.
probably the better resource to start.
Yeah, it's a great place to start. Are you going to be doing more one-on-one coaching this year?
Mid-year, I'm looking to reopen. I'm going to start a wait list for that. But typically, I will say I usually take sellers who have started their shops, they've listed some, and they're looking to scale. Typically, it's sellers who've had some sales, kind of tested out print on demand, and they're very serious about scaling. So, but mid-year is when
Yeah,
I'm going
you
to
do
reopen.
interviews, right? Like people have to apply.
Yes, yes, and
Okay.
I will say, like, with applications and whatnot, I'm very careful because I only wanna bring in those people who are really serious and I can see that return on investment for them, so I typically have a kind of vetting process for that one-on-one. So, but yeah, it's gonna open mid-year, we'll have a wait list, and it's really exciting. I'm really excited to kinda take on more clients mid-year here, so
I love that. Okay, so if
yep,
that's you and you'd like to work with Heather one-on-one, it's a huge opportunity because she didn't used to offer that. You want to take her crash course now. That'll also get you on her email list. So then you
yep,
can get your shop going. You can be able to show her you're serious and have a little knowledge going in. Then you'll get an email to say when she's opened it up and you can apply and work with her because it's like our legacy conversation, Heather. We want to I don't want to pretend I can help someone if they're really not a good fit. So it's good that you do that.
mhm, yep, yep.
Okay, my love. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your amazing, beautiful heart and your generosity. It's the best.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on again, Lizzie. It's always so fun talking about all the print on demand things and even digital. I love hearing the digital world too from you.
It's fun. Actually, sometime it would be super cool to do something together because I could teach like how to create the designs with AI and then you could teach the print on demand part. That could be a
Yeah,
really interesting collab. I totally just threw you. I didn't that was a random thought. We'll talk later.
it would be
Guys,
fun.
it would be fun. We'd have so much fun. Jenny and I want to do like a mindset thing like that. So we just need to do more. I think also we should do a roundtable with the print on demand girls like episode.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, I need all the DMs and the emails if you guys want any episodes like those. Tell me in the I can't tell you, tell me in the comments. DM me. Y'all, we love you so much. We're cheering for you this year. I have never been more excited about all the potential on Etsy. The more I learn, the more possibilities I see. So stick with us. We want to take you there. And until next week, go make something awesome. Take care, y'all. And that's a wrap on this episode of How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're looking for more resources, head on over to howtosellyourstuff.com where you'll find podcast show notes, all the links from today's episode, the blog, courses, coaching, and more. If this episode was helpful to you, awesome. The greatest compliment I can receive from you is a rate, review, and subscribe on this podcast. Not only will it allow us to connect again on a future episode, it lets me know I'm providing you with value and helps other people find this content more easily. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your support. Have a great day and see you next time.